He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Behold, everyone, and welcome to another week of Bat Minutes and Robin. This is the podcast where we tie together and descend down each minute of Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And here to whip off the topmost layers of this masterpiece, revealing the enticing goods beneath, it is I, John Parker.
This week, we're joined by some new guests. Who would have thought it? We have a returning guest from previous season. I don't know if seasons or just a season, but we have from last year at least, Courtney Coulson.
Hi, yeah, I think returning champion.
Yeah. And joining her, we have her co-host, Simon Haynes.
A new contender. Thanks for having me.
Oh, more than welcome.
And yes, we're from 60 Seconds to Comply, the RoboCop podcast. We're about, probably about 30-odd minutes in, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, nice one. I think that's one of those ones that gets such a... Once you've thought of that name, you can't not do the show. Like, it's
No.
Yes. Oh, and then I'm like 20 minutes into Tron, and then Duncan's like, you should call it Tron Legacy, actually. He's like, you should call it Tron in 60 seconds. I went,
Oh my god, that is genius.
Oh,
yeah, I have to do it.
That's awful and brilliant at the same time.
But speaking of minutes, we're here to talk about minute 34 of Batman and Robin, which begins with an affectionate peck, and it ends a minute later with a giant seemingly fondling some balls. Which is okay. There's like a lot of... Like this movie is in no way subtle, but like the more you look at it, you realize how it's not subtle it is about anything.
Yes.
So it's Barbara Wilson, not Barbara Gordon, right?
Yeah. She's a totally different original character who has the exact same personality as Barbara Gordon, but is in fact a different character.
Just computer geek and all of that, so I don't see what the advantage was. And then, but then you go, oh, well, then it's to make her related to Alfred rather than Jim Gordon. Okay, cool, I follow you. Then I wasn't following it, because it's okay, you got, so there's Margaret and Alfred and Wilfred, and they are all siblings?
Due to a deleted scene, that originally was not the case.
Oh,
that was
I was about to get...
Yeah, that's cobbled together. Like, it originally was... Margaret was Alfred's younger ex-girlfriend, who he left. And now there's also allusions that Barbara may in fact be his daughter. But
it was already friggin' confusing, and then in a deleted scene, they had to make it more confusing.
Yeah.
And also, Wilfred, like, that plot point's never resolved. Where did that go?
That's an excellent point. I don't think we brought it up last week, but that goes nowhere.
It would be great, though, if we just had the final scene, just Wilfred just shows up, like, Alfred, what do you need me for? It's like, oh, nothing. Sorry, man.
So the inclusion was this whole, like, family theme that Schumacher... I listened to the audio commentary today, and he was going about the whole thing about... It was a lot more family-orientated, and they wanted a theme of family going in. That's why, Bruce is a lot more of a father figure... older brother.
More references to family than a Fast and the Furious sequel.
Oh, pretty much, yes. And so that was it. It was just a shortcut to get Barbara in the family without, trying to go through the, well, how can Commissioner Gordon not know that his daughter's Batgirl?
That really makes
look,
Gordon
we know your
look like
gripes with this Commissioner Gordon, so that makes a lot more sense in that context.
I will say, though, there is a... we come in this scene, we're back where we left off last week, but there was also a deleted scene in the novelization where it's Alfred just sort of milling around his room, and like, you know, wistfully thinking of the past, and it does a flashback to when he met. The novelization sticks with Margaret Clark is his ex-girlfriend, and they have him like, oh yeah, it's kind of like the backstory's kind of like Cabaret. Basically, he was like this young, sort of, you know, very effete but very well-to-do gentleman who met this, you know, up-and-coming kind of scruffy actress from the underclasses, and you went to see her perform, and they fell in love and stuff. I was like, that's Cabaret.
Well, now I want the Pennyworth show to do an episode that's just Cabaret.
They may well have already done it, as far as we know.
Yeah, what is the Pennyworth show like? I haven't.
No, even we haven't watched it.
Apparently, at one point he shags the Queen in it, so
yeah.
I know that much about it.
That's all I know.
And Paloma Faith is the villain. Then it was like, Paloma Faith. What?
I just want to know if he punches Hitler or not.
Yeah,
I'll give him time. But at one point, though, the novelization, and I only realized after rereading it like 3 times what they actually meant. But it says he's looking at this picture of Margaret, and it says, with a deep sigh, Alfred replaced the photograph on his dresser and turned to his workstation. He was tempted to use it, as he had used it the last several nights.
Wait, what?
But he was too tired, too hollowed out from his ordeals during the day. And I was like, are they talking about him using the picture the way he... And then rereading, I was like, I think they mean using the workstation. But my initial thing was, is this like a masturbation joke that they're doing?
Yeah.
I don't think Pornhub was around back then, Sam.
And Alfred's old school. Alfred might be good with technology, but that's not how he gets his rocks off. Yeah.
No, he just scans himself into a computer.
Oh my God.
But it was very disturbing, though, that like I do, you know, Michael Jan Friedman, he might well have been like, I'll just word it in a way that'll suggest that, but I'm not going to outright say it. I was like, yeah, I gotta get myself some fun here, so I'll allude to Michael Goff getting his rocks off.
Well, you know, Joel Schumacher would approve.
Yeah, totally. Oh yeah, 100%. Should also say, actually, as well, in that audio commentary, Simon, you'll have heard this, and I didn't know, because when we were talking about, like, last year for Batman Forever, we're like, oh, why did they bring back Pat Hingle and Michael Goff? Like, he's such, you know, he is such an old man, and we kind of assumed, like, because Alfred and Commissioner Gordon aren't flashy characters, it was like, he probably was just like, you know, who cares? But in that audio commentary, in this scene, Schumacher mentions that the studio did say to him, you might want to replace this guy. He's getting way too old for it. And Schumacher was like, no, I really, really love Michael Goff. And they're like, you know, well, we don't know. And he's like, let me meet with him and I'll see, just to see if he can still do it. And apparently flew out to London to go see him in a play he was doing. And apparently Michael Goff was doing 8 shows a week in a really drafty London theater. And he was like...
It says he was getting paid peanuts for it, but he just did it for the love of the art.
Yeah, he's just like, well, all great English actors still do theater, even when they're in blockbuster movies, because that's just the way they are. And he apparently came back to the studio and was just like, you know, the guy's in better shape than I am. Like, for the love of God, let me use him for Batman Forever. And they're like, okay, I guess so. So it's nice to hear that apparently, Schumacher it wasn't just laziness of just going, we already got a guy. He was like, I genuinely love this guy and I want to work with him. So.
And he only passed away in 2011, so well after Batman and Robin. The guy almost lived to 100. Damn.
I'm still like, half the time you see his character in Corpse Bride, I'm like, is that just a picture of Michael Goff nowadays?
I think it's a great... it adds such a great continuity to the series that even though you got these 2, like, necessarily secondary characters, it just adds a lot of world building. Yeah, it's lazy in many ways, but yeah, just the fact of, like, you know that these 4 movies are connected, and it's not just, well, you know, it's a brand new Alfred and a brand new Gordon every single time you switch a director or anything like that. And because this was before, like, you know, we had just the constant rebooting of these damn properties.
We should actually probably talk about this minute.
Yes.
Yes.
So at the start, we get Barbara giving Alfred a lovely sweet kiss on the cheek, but then... she tries to force him to go to bed. And all I could think of, Niall, was The Room, and you're not my f***ing mother. Leave me alone.
Really, my note was on something else. So like, I assumed you would go the same way, John. Like, I imagine her leaving, and then Alfred just appearing with a loaf of bread, and been like, here you go. Go to bread.
Yeah.
Go to bed. Eat.
Oh, but Alfred looks genuinely kind of touched by the interaction, I think. He probably...
Yeah, I was going to say, my note was that, say what you will about this movie, but it's perhaps one of the few Batman stories, not even just movies, it's stories, where Alfred is getting the love and attention he deserves.
Yes.
And Batman actually says, I love you. He says, I love you to Alfred, and that's just so beautiful.
He calls him Dad. He calls him Dad at the end.
And it's so beautiful.
It's not, he has a nicer moment with him than then his interaction with Robin of like, I'm asking you, brother, to do this for me. It's like, you don't mean that. You don't consider this guy a brother. It's more like, do this for me, inconvenience in my life.
But what I was doing when I was watching this movie was just imagining the script, like just looking at the dialogue and imagining it being played by someone else or in a different way. So Robin's definitely one where you go, okay, but imagine this was played by a much younger actor. Okay, now it's starting to work. And then I imagined, though we don't have Mr. Freeze in these minutes, I imagined Mr. Freeze with the very serious deadpan voice from the Batman animated series. And I was like, oh wow, actually some of these jokes actually work a lot better because he's the straight man, and if he had that really deadpan delivery against Poison Ivy being all cap, would have been great, actually.
But, I'll never sacrifice Arnie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
true.
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine Arnie doing that kind of performance.
Well, the funny thing is, this was the first time he played a villain since the Terminator, and he was kind of like champing at the bit to kind of do something a bit different than just your regular action hero.
It makes no sense where he's like, I have no emotions. You can't stop me. It's like, but you're laughing gleefully.
That's an emotion.
Yes.
He is the most jolly Mr. Freeze in the history of the character.
I don't know. Otto Preminger, that was a bit of a fun one in the old 66. With those big, brushy red eyebrows.
Oh, we haven't talked about it in the show yet, but like constantly saying wild. Otto Preminger's weird thing of like, oh, it's wild. It's like, why are you giving him this catchphrase? Are you trying to make wild happen? What is this?
It's not going to happen.
But
I was going to say with Alfred, like, I think Alfred here, he probably didn't expect to actually have a proper relationship with Barbara. It's like, I look after her, but that's like financially and thing. So I think he's like genuinely touched that she cares for him this much. It's like, oh, I'm not just that nice old man who helps her.
This is not to undercut that, because, that is nice and everything. But I just identify with Barbara in the scene, too, as like when I was a teenager and I lived with my dad, and I was always like, there was a shared TV in the house. Like, so if you wanted to watch anything, you had to wait for him to go to bed, basically. And she is basically just like almost egging him on. It's like, go to bed so I can sneak out now.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that.
Yeah, true.
No, it's nice on his side, but I'm just overwhelmingly on feel for her because I just know she's like, yep. So it's like it's 10:30. Don't you think it's about time you turned in?
She's ruthlessly manipulative.
Yeah, and she decides she's going to sneak off and whip her housecoat off, but there's clothes underneath. It's not sexy attire. It's not Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks.
I actually think, though, as well, because there's so many kinky things going on throughout these, like both Schumacher movies. And like you can't help but notice, like she's got this, the disguise on of the dressing gown, but then she's already got like her jeans on and her boots on. Alfred might notice this when she immediately, like, she doesn't even give him a minute to go to bed. She immediately starts sneaking out the window. I think she's like, this is the thrill of getting caught. She's like, I kind of want him to know that something's up, and I'm hoping when I go out the window, he'll be like, what the hell's happening here? Like, because I want it to be so close. She gets off on the thrill of it.
Yeah.
I think this is all part of her kind of weird kink of like, I want someone to know that something's up, and I want them to almost catch me. That's my dream.
But her motivation is she's trying to rescue this poor old man from the lifelong servitude of the evil billionaire Bruce Wayne. And
is she where he gets paid?
How long has she been planning this too? Was it like I was only going to go there to like spend a couple of days, but then as soon as she saw that bike, it's like, I have to steal that bike. This is my dream now. It's all I want to do. But though she has a helmet in the room with her when we get there eventually. So was she always like, oh, I know that Bruce Wayne guy's got loads of cool bikes. I'm going to swipe one of them when I get there. How long has she known that she was going to do this?
Unless she stole the helmet earlier.
That was another thing where she was just like shoving it under her jumper, like, "Oh, nothing's wrong here, Uncle Alfred." I suppose so. Did you get pregnant suddenly?
The moment she saw that bike, I think, is when the plan started forming, I think.
Well, here's the thing. Wouldn't she have made more money going to a chop shop with a bloody bike than street racing it?
It's not as much fun, though.
Yeah. It's all about the fun.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, I think she is just a thrill seeker. Yeah. I don't think she's in it for the money. The money's just sort of a benefit of like, well, if I win, I win.
Well,
if I don't,
that's it. Her motivation is she's raising money to pay off Bruce Wayne.
Well, that'd be the really dark side. Then Bruce is like, no money can get Alfred away from me.
It does baffle me, her going out the window with the old like sheets tied together trick.
Yeah,
because as you say now, like, if anything, this reduces the secrecy. Maybe she does want to get caught, because surely she can just go out the front door. There's going to be cameras at this place anyway.
She doesn't have to lie at all about anything, really.
No.
She could just be like, I have friends in Gotham. I'm going to go out and see them. And Alfred might be like, okay.
Yeah.
How old is she supposed to be?
Well, she's at university, so she's...
Yeah, so she's old enough to just go anywhere she wants.
She's got to be at least, I'd say, 19. She's not new at university. She's finished at least her first year, right?
Oh, for sure. She could actually flat out say to Dick Grayson, like, can you take me out to town and show me, like, not as a date, but like, I'm new in town. Or even Dick could have offered. Like, maybe he's out doing Batman and Robin stuff, but he could have been like, yeah, someone my age, quote unquote, is finally in town. Do you want to hang out? But it all seems to be like, no, it needs to be secret. She needs to pretend to be this goody two-shoes.
There's no reason.
Yeah, it's baffling.
She could pretend to be a goody two-shoes, but she doesn't have to sneak out. That's the bizarre bit. There's no need for this scene.
It does seem as if lying is just a genetic trait throughout the Pennyworth and Wilson families, I guess.
Yep.
I think that is
We're
what
a
it
long
is.
line of liars.
Yeah. It's to make you go, she's going to be good as Batgirl. She can lie.
Yeah. We'll say, though, in talking about things that link characters, we do get the shot of her, coming out, throwing the dressing gown off and booting down the corridor. And we, just a few weeks ago, John, we're calling a scene involving Alfred where a young Bruce Wayne was booting down a very similar corridor. And it's almost as if it's echoing that, trying to go, maybe she will end up like Bruce Wayne and become a hero of sorts herself.
Really?
It's the beginnings of the seeds have been planted for a new type of hero in Gotham.
So that's why they didn't go with Commissioner Gordon, because they had to bump him off. And that means you get no more Pat Hingle for another 3 more movies they were trying to make.
I think Pat Hingle probably like, I'll show up for 2 seconds. You don't have to worry about killing me. It's like, I'm barely in these things.
I wonder what the painting on the wall is in that hallway. I tried looking, but it's not clear enough. But it looks very Renaissance.
See, and cause it looks like initially thought it's a woman with I thought initially a bow and arrow. But I think it's a spear. And she seems to have birds up above her. And, of course, Barbara...
all I could really make it was maybe wings or something.
And, of course, that'll be either allusion to Batgirl or the Birds of Prey, the team that Barbara Gordon helped start in the comics. So it could be that they are, again, alluding to this is the beginning of a new heroic... it's a woman with a spear battling something with birds surrounding her. It's kind of alluding to, there could be an epic hero in the making here and stuff.
I'm just I don't think the full series of Birds of Prey was even out at this stage, but there might have been a couple of one-shots, but I don't know. I remember the actual full comic series coming out maybe like a year or so after this. That was back when I was in my heavy collecting stage.
As you were saying there earlier, John, we do get Barbara quickly nips into her room. She's got her leather jacket and her or maybe someone else's helmet prepared. And she does the classic bed sheets knotted together to descend out the window.
Yeah, in the
routine.
draft, it's not sheets, it's a rope, which makes less sense. Where did she get a rope? But at least it's less cheesy.
Oh, at least I don't mind the old... like this routine, because again, it's it's a kids movie, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Like, Bruce Wayne's probably got 1,000 bedrooms you could steal sheets from.
I just love the idea of her using a grappling hook and just being like, oh, I don't know, I just found it around the place. So.
Now, I'm disappointed they didn't shoot it from the side on where she's going down, like, and there's allusion to the 66 shot.
Missed opportunity.
How did they resist?
I have a feeling that this is probably, it's supposed to be a little allusion to 66 Batman, but they're like, we can't be that on the nose with it.
But this minute ends with a Dutch angle.
And then you just have like a random celebrity popping his head out the side window. It's just like all of a sudden like Cindy
amazing.
Crawford's in there. It's just like, what's happening out here? Or something.
No, Michael Keaton.
He's got lost in the goddamn
Never would have happened
hammer.
to my watch, let me tell you. And just slams the window shut again. But one thing I did, I tried to trace the origin of the old bed sheets out the window trick. I was like, is this one? This must be a thing that'll only go back to like recent, cartoons of like the 30s or something. No. Well, notably for our purposes, it features in Baron Munchausen, the Terry Gilliam movie. This bit where they're climbing down from the moon. Of course, that movie features Uma Thurman. That's why I bring it up. But as they're going down, they run out of rope, and then Baron Munchausen's like, "Oh, here you go," and hands them stuff, and they're like, "Where'd you get that?" He's like, "I cut it from the top of the rope," and so they make their way. It's very, very funny. But yeah, you get it in Nosferatu, the character of quote unquote Hutter. Escapes from quote-unquote Count Orlok's castle. Not Dracula, you understand.
No. Very different. Totally different.
He's a completely original character like Sherry Bobbins.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so bizarre to me that there have been, and I think there's going to be another adaptation of Nosferatu, which is like, well, hang on, it's Dracula. You're doing an adaptation of. Oh no, but it's the spooky vampire this time, not the handsome vampire. Oh, okay.
I think Willem Dafoe cornered that version of Nosferatu in Shadow of the Vampire.
Oh my god, yes. Oh, nailed it.
That was
we
a
actually
great
just
film.
got exciting news during the week where one of our recurring guests, Natasha Kamani, has been hired to adapt Joe Hill's sequel to Dracula. He did.
Wow.
So we're just like, oh my.
Like the Nosferatu?
No, not that one. I think
Because that is, I like saying the title.
No, that's the one directed by Josh Trank.
So it's a remake of Dracula 2000.
exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Dracula 2001. No, that's a weird thing. Nos for art. Nos. Because that book has different titles in the US and the UK. I think in the UK it's like Nos for R2. And in the US it's like Nos for A2 or something like that. And
What?
I remember because I bought a secondhand
'Cause
copy
that's
off
a road
eBay
take.
and I couldn't find it. And then I found out, no, it's because you're looking on the UK eBay and it's got a different title. I was like, what? Why? And I guess it's like
I want the future
pronunciation.
sequel called Nosferatu D2.
Yes. Crossover time.
But no, apparently Joe Hill did like a short story called Abraham's Boys, which was in like his collection of short stories. And yeah, well, like one of our guests has been hired to adapt it. So like she's writing and directing. It's like, that's crazy. That's amazing
Yeah,
news.
that's dope.
But the thing is, like, so you also get the bedsheet thing in Huckleberry Finn, but it actually dates way back to the Bible.
What?
Weirdly enough, yeah, the Book of Samuel has the character of David and Goliath fame. You know David, Courtney. There's a
King
lot
David.
of allusions
Yeah.
to him in Prometheus.
Sure do.
And but yeah, apparently, so David is sort of hooked up into marriage with a woman called Michal. And it says here, in the biblical narrative, King Saul invited David to marry Michal. David replied, "I'm a poor and lightly esteemed man," meaning that he was unable to provide a bride price, which is when you, way back in the day, if you had to basically give like the bride's father money to prove that you're a worthy husband and stuff. Saul then advised him that no bride price was required except the foreskins of 100 Philistines. What? David took part in a further battle, killed 200 Philistines, and brought their foreskins to Saul as double bride price, which is like, okay.
Did he say he tied them together as a rope?
Oh, that would tragically no, but that would have been the best way to go with the story.
Wouldn't that be more like a linking ring?
Yeah, Daisy
a chain of foreskins.
Be extra stretchy too. You probably get an even further distance. You're like, oh yeah.
That's your title drop.
Oh my god.
But then it says, in the biblical narrative, Michal chooses the welfare of David over the wishes of her father. When Saul's messengers search for David in order to kill him, Michal sends them away while pretending he was ill and laid up in bed. She then lets David down through the window on the bed sheets, basically. But not only is it creating, tied together bed sheets as a trope, the whole, I'll put something in the bed and pretend it's him, the Ferris Bueller routine, that goes back to the friggin' Bible. So there you go, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, actually a biblical story, a remake of the story of David.
It's
from the Book of
a bit like
There
Mother,
are no new ideas. There are absolutely no new ideas.
But now I'm just like, I kind of want to remake the story. It's like, no, the 200 foreskins that he brought back, those clearly have to be the rope. Like, why else would you introduce that to the story? Like,
Yeah,
you can't have Chekov's foreskin.
exactly.
That feels like it should be a porn term.
It is fascinating that if you go back and read really old classic literature and Le Morte d'Arthur or Canterbury Tales and stuff like that, where there's no conventional modern narrative structure yet. So it's just they go around in circles, they seem to be foreshadowing things, and then it never goes anywhere because no, that wasn't foreshadowing, that was just I don't know what you call that before, they just shadowing, I guess. And it's so frustrating. And it just makes me realize that, all the movies that I think kick ass now, all the music that I think is so powerful and emotive, a century from now, people just be like, what? This is terrible. What is this?
But that's true of pretty much most media. Like, it's funny how time does change a movie, or at least the audience reflection on a movie, because
1970s television is the most boringest shit ever.
Well, I'm going to segue this back into the movie, is that yes. I'm a defender of Batman and Robin. I'll form that sort immediately. Definitely. But this movie was so reviled for so long, and I think it just had a reputation. Yeah, it bombed. It was like the death of the franchise and all this, but
I don't get it.
I'd rather watch this like 100 times before I'd watch Batman Forever, for example, or pretty much most of the stuff that's come out recently by DC.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so straight because it's so clear to me. I have watched this many times with friends and at movie nights where we're kind of just making fun of it. Yeah. And I never actually watched it by myself. And now I realize, well, no, they're in on the joke too. Oh, yeah. Guys, hello. There's clearly always a wink to the camera. They're very self-aware. So I don't get why everyone... Well, I guess it's the time period it came out. It's kind of early days of the internet. And I remember it was always a frequent punching bag. Like, oh, this is the worst thing since Batman and Robin. It's so dumb. How do they not know? They know it's dumb. They know.
No, here's the thing. Back in the day, when this came out on the internet, this was huge. Like, when that first reveal of the Mr. Freeze costume came out, like, it blew up. And people were like, oh my god, this is going to be freaking amazing.
Hell yeah.
Like, all those early pictures, it was just so... I think that was the problem, is that it looked like it was going to be so awesome. And then everyone just went... It's not that good.
It was a lot sillier than they were expecting.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem, is if you are a hardcore Batman fan, you've been reading The Dark Knight and Killing Joke and all of that, and you are so desperate to see a dark Batman on screen, and all you're getting is the same old 60s Batman kind of thing. I can see why the nerd rage would boil over, but for what it is, just disregarding all of the cultural issues there, as a product on its own, I think it's great fun. It's so silly. I genuinely laughed, especially biggest laugh from me was John Glover's line. Like, okay, I respect your opinion. Unfortunately, I don't deal with rejection well, so you'll have to die. Like, wow, genius.
It's amazing.
How good is John Glover in this goddamn film?
Oh,
how good is John Glover?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was great.
Hollywood's been sleeping on that, man.
Oh, it was great seeing all the behind the scenes stuff with him too, because he's just so happy to be there. He's just like, this is great. He's like, I'm gonna miss Woody once he dies, because he kept, it was Jason Woodrue. He kept calling him Woody for some reason.
Back in the minute, Barbara here, she, as you say, Niall, she steals Robin's bike. She's evil. What could she be up to? But my interest lied in finding useless information in the background, as usual. So I was like, what's this car with the numbers on? I quite like this.
Oh, yeah. I was looking in the Jaguar D-types.
Yeah, Jaguar D-type long nose, to be precise.
The doors are wide open. She could have literally just stole half of these cars and made the money that way.
Yeah. She could have stole them. Could have stole them all. Because now this car is, these days, it's pricey. It was made in 1955, but even by the 60s, it was obsolete racing car. And you could buy it for like $3,000, which is absurd. But let me find the exact price here. In 1999, at an auction, a Bonham's auction house, one of them sold for £1.7 million. No, wait, that's 99. There's another one. That's a normal one. Then the first line of them, another one sold for £2.2 million.
Jesus.
So
it was Desmond Llewellyn.
Yeah, it's wild. And there is
I think there's 3 of them there, though. They're all part of the same, I don't know, collection. They've all got very similar numbering and everything.
They do. There's all kinds of these bloody things. And
well, they were all donated for shooting by the owners of the cars. So it weren't even like studio cars or anything like that. And because Schumacher talks about them in the commentary, like they were just kind of like crowding around, like keenly observing because they didn't want anything to happen to them.
No wonder. Jesus Christ, yeah.
Yeah.
The price of these things. Well, in 2016. There's another one that sells at Sotheby's auction house, and this one is literally from 1955. So it's not only the first run; it is like one of the original ones made. So this one sold for £16.6 million, which is $21.7 million US, and it's the most expensive Jaguar ever to sell at an auction. And yes, Americans, Jaguar. I'm not saying it your way.
It's a Jaguar.
I'm not saying Jaguar. It's an English car.
The Australian way is Jaguar. Just really put every vowel in
Lean
there.
into it, yeah. Jaguar.
It's only got one A. It's only got one vowel, and that's an A. So it's Jag.
Oh, God, it's coming back to Jag, Niall.
Oh my god! I was just marveling there, John, because I didn't realize you ever so slowly turning into Alan Partridge there, though. Like, I'm not calling it the American pronunciation. It's an English car.
I refuse. I know most of our listeners are American. I see the stats, people, but I don't care. You're wrong. It's a Jaguar.
It is.
Are Americans the majority of people on the internet? Because everything I've ever done, you look at the statistics of who is visiting your website, who is consuming your media. It's always Americans, 90%.
Yeah. All of ours are in California as well, for some reason. That seems to be 90% of our audience is in California.
We are talking about one of the most American things on the planet, and that's Batman.
Yeah. Plus, they are
American
obligated
dream.
to listen under the iron fist of Governor Schwarzenegger in California. Like, a hard and fast law that is unbreakable that he instilled over there. Anything about Batman and Robin, people have to listen to it.
You got to listen to my podcast.
Hey, if the California government want to subsidize us, that's fine.
But then talking about pronunciations, though, I thought this was because, I've been looking her up recently, so this is just my algorithm, but I don't think it is. Apparently, it's big news this week that Alicia Silverstone has joined TikTok.
Oh.
Yeah, that's come up on my thing as well.
It's weird. It's like, 'cause I keep thinking, it's just the algorithm. You go in the comments section, most of the comments are like, why is this news? Why am I been told that this woman has joined TikTok like it's a big deal?
It's cool.
But one of the first things she put up is that apparently people have been mispronouncing her name for all these years. Yeah, because she's saying it's not Alicia, it's Alicia. So Alicia Silverstone. But I'm kind of like, have I been mispronouncing it this whole time?
I definitely have, because the English way of saying it would be Alicia.
Yeah. But I was just like, but then looking at it, it's like, Alicia. That's what I've been saying that, right? Have I? And then I have to wait to get into editing to find out what I've been saying all this time. But she seemed very exhausted in the clip. Like, she's just like, it's Alicia. It's not Alicia.
So any listeners of previous podcasts, if you suddenly hear Alicia in a very deadpan voice, it's just all the editing that's going on.
Yeah, just go back through, Niall, comb through, change every mention of her.
I paid for Arnie via Cameo to say Alicia, and I'll just put that audio of him saying it.
If Arnie's on Cameo, I want everyone to go on our Patreon and donate just so we can get one. And then you can stop donating after that. It's fine.
Oh yeah, if Arnie's on there, if we just get him to plug the show, we can officially cancel this. Because that's all we'll ever need. It's just like, yep, that's all I'd ever want.
Yep.
We'll keep doing the Patreon content for free, but just if everyone gives us the money to do that.
Yeah. We'll open it up to everybody if you just help us this once.
Yes.
The only other thing with the cars, I got one in the draft. I really liked this line because it's so cheesy. It's so cheesy. The draft script states about the cars: kids collect Matchbox and Corgi. Billionaires collect the real thing.
Ooh. That sounds like that's almost like the tagline for like a line of cars or something. Like Akiva Goldsman's like, I also work in advertising.
Plus, I don't like that, kids collect Matchbox and Corgi. It's like, well, no wonder. Kids can't drive. So even if a kid's a billionaire, it's not going to collect the real thing.
That's kind
This is why I've collected so many Hot Wheels. I can't drive yet.
I was going to say, that's so dated now, because as adults now collect these things because they can't afford the real fucking things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a millennial. Where do you think I'm going to get this money?
Well, you should stop buying avocados and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
That's my problem. I don't even eat the avocados, and then they rot, so I don't know why. I'm just a millennial. I'm compelled to buy it.
That's the problem. You turn your back on an avocado for 5 minutes and it goes out of date.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only note I had about the cars is that, the Jaguar D-Type went on the Internet Movie Car Database. And apparently
that's where I live.
Yeah, it featured in episodes of The Persuaders, which got an exclamation point. Yeah, Roger Moore's follow-up series to The Saint. Of course, The Saint movie starred Val Kilmer and was one of the reasons he didn't come back for Batman and Robin.
Everything's connected.
Everything's connected there.
Thankfully.
Persuaders was Tony Curtis, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, that was kind of a weird, like two massive megastars in like a kind of a TV show back in back then you were either a movie star or a TV star. Never the twain should meet.
Oh,
but,
God.
Yeah. Apparently those guys, hopping back and forth.
That was a great era of, like, everyone's trying to make, like, a TV version of James Bond. And that was, like, one of them. You had the British Bond and you had the American Bond.
Yeah, they all failed miserably. I actually think Bond could maybe... You could shift it now from a film series into, like, an HBO style, like, 8-episode season thing.
Yeah, why not?
I'm not saying they should, listeners. I'm not saying they should do it, but they could.
Although speaking of like adapting Bond, one of the other things that this Jaguar D-Type features in is the 2015 adaptation of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. with Henry Cavill and Alicia Vikander.
I loved that until
someone we don't talk about anymore.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the movie until he turned out to be like a cannibal or whatever.
Oh, it's okay when Mads Mikkelsen's a cannibal, John, but when Armie Hammer is Hannibal in real life, it's a problem.
But Mads is daddy.
He can get away with murder, literally.
I did like that Man from U.N.C.L.E. remake. I love the original series, and I thought that movie was so much fun.
Yeah, it was a better Bond movie than the Bond movies.
Yeah, it was a fun time. But I only bring it up because I specifically remember when I was a kid, one of my first instances of like recognizing someone being in multiple things. Like, you obviously the actors are in multiple things, but one of the first times I pieced together myself was I was watching an episode of the 60s Batman, and Batgirl was in it, Yvonne Craig. And then later that afternoon, an episode of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was on, and I was like, that's Batgirl. There she is. I was like, looked it up this week to verify that was true, and the Brain Killer Affair. An episode with Yvonne Craig. It's like, oh my God, I actually did it back in the day. I pieced it together.
And then you switch over to Star Trek and she's there painting green. You're going, what the hell?
Everything's connected.
It's Yvonne Craig's universe, and we're all just living in it.
I got to meet her at a Supernova a few years ago, and I got a Batgirl Barbie doll signed. I was kind of happy about that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you should post it in the listeners' cave. That'd be great to see.
I'll try and find a photo of it. It's up in the loft somewhere, so unfortunately it's packed up.
Yeah. She's a real beloved version of Bat. Like, no one has a bad word to say about Yvonne Craig's rendition of Batgirl. It's like, everybody loved it. Everybody loved it.
That version of the character was created in conjunction with the series, so it's like, they were introduced in the comic books just slightly predated it, but that was a whole big thing, especially because they wanted to try and get rid of the whole Batman and Robin and gay vibe. Aunt Harriet wasn't cutting it.
It doesn't seem like Bruce is going to shag Aunt Harriet at any point, so we're going to have to amp this up.
Oh, that exists on the internet somewhere.
But yeah, I think I'm noted out for this minute. Does anyone have any other minutes?
That's all my notes.
For minute 34? Should we move on to the next?
We can move.
The only thing I was going to say is that this is probably the only time
I think we should.
No, I was going to say is, God damn it, this is the only nitpick I have of Alicia Silverstone is, why is she a Yank?
It's weird. It's weird because she's obviously, like, Alfred's family have moved to America as well, but then sent her back to England to study.
To Oxford.
to Oxbridge.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was Oxford.
I think there's, again, in that deleted scene and in the novelization, I think there's even in the draft script, I think there are differences in that one of them says he met Margaret Clark in Metropolis, so she's American, and that's why Alicia Silverstone is American. Okay. Other ones have her, no, he met her in London, and it's kind of alluding that, no, Barbara Wilson is English, which it'll be fun to see that. So Batgirl later in the movie have been English as well?
Well, technically, yeah, she could be English, but she's grown up in America, so maybe that's why she felt, I'm going to go to university in England. It's like my ancestral home,
Yeah. I love that, though. That was her disguise, though, when she's Batgirl. She puts on a really terrible American accent.
Yeah.
Like, it's me, Batgirl. Where are you from?
Like,
Look,
English people can't do
I've got no other chance to air these grievances, so I'm taking my opportunity.
Hey, do it.
Yes. Good.
And hopefully you've got more, but for now we'll head off into the dark, dark night. Would both of you like to plug any of your stuff and tell people where you can be found online with your shows and whatnot?
Courtney, go ahead.
Yeah, I always go first on our pod, so I guess I should. You can find me at triviandesigns.com and also patreon.com/triviandesigns. I do Prometheus by Minute, Alien Covenant, Tron Legacy, and Blade Runner 2049, so you can find all of that on those websites. And that should do for now.
Apart from our podcast, 60 Seconds to Comply, I do Kung Pao Into the Minute, where I talk about the masterpiece of Steve Oedeker, Kung Pao. I on Fandom Crossing. And I'm going to plug my photography page. It's currently just on Facebook, but just look for Helios Photos. I post a lot of weird, geeky and stuff, a couple of cosplay shoots, and I just put up some cool lightsaber pictures, so that should be up by the time this goes to air, probably about 6 months from now.
At least 6 years, I believe we're ahead of schedule. Yes, we've done like 4 seasons in between of bonus material before we release this.
Nice.
And come and speak to us, all the usual. Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave. I can't be bothered today. Twitter, Instagram. Look us up. Just put in Bat Minute. It's fine. So do that and join us again on Wednesday for more Bat Minute and Robin.
Next time. Sinister chauffeuring. Bane puts pedal to the metal while he's driving Miss Crazy, and his infectious chieftess gets as fresh as a daisy. But as Ivy reverses her reincarnation by donning an Isley disguise, which eminent aristocrat is encouraging his entourage to look to the skies? Tune in next time, or there will be trouble. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
We'll be back.